professional level. This is why.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Baseball Recruiting Deep Dive podcast. Today, we're joined by Ryan Forrest. He's now the assistant coach and pitching coach at Boston College. Ryan, thanks for joining us. Give us a little background on kind of your career in baseball.
Yeah, first and foremost, Kyle Murph, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to do this. But yeah, for me, my baseball career, it's kind of taken me literally all over the country. I played it. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. I played at Creighton University for a year, and then I transferred to the University of Maine for my last three. So literally being from Denver, going to Omaha, going to Maine, literally kind of took me from coast to coast almost. But once I graduated from Maine, I knew I wanted to be involved in baseball in some capacity.
Sure.
I just didn't know what realm, I guess, I wanted to be in. At the time, I was looking more so at like the professional ranks. So I moved back home and I ended up getting a internship with the Pittsburgh Pirates doing video scouting work with them. And it was a really unique experience in terms of I got to be in the big league clubhouse, breaking down scouting reports on upcoming opponents. It was basically the start of when we started using all the data and all that.
Yep.
So I got to dabble in that a little bit. However, at the end of that internship, I decided it was like, I really enjoyed it, but I wanted to be more involved in coaching and want to be on the field. And I want to just, at the end of the day, just make a difference in kids' lives.
Yep.
So I ended up getting a volunteer job back at the University of Maine where I played. I spent 2 years there, and then I ended up getting a pitching coach job at a Division II university in Pennsylvania called Millersville University. I was there for 3 years. Went from there to Mississippi College for a year, another Division II, before landing at the Air Force Academy for 6 years, and obviously starting year 3 here at BC. So literally, the game has taken me all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt, man. So let's talk about what this time of year looks like for you guys. Obviously, winding down a lot of the summer recruiting. You probably have some freshmen kind of coming back on campus or getting to campus and getting acclimated. But what's kind of the transition look like for you now?
Yeah, no, this is honestly a little downtime for us.
Okay.
Obviously, with August 1st it's came and gone. The first wave of calls and all that has came, but like now it's more so just being in and around the office, tying up loose ends from a recruiting standpoint, both with the 26 class and certainly starting the 27 class. And then just honestly, just trying to prep for our guys getting here. We did have our freshmen on campus. They got here, it was early July, and they took a summer class and we're training with our strength coach, and they got a throwing program and all that from me. But they're now gone until school starts, and I think they report at the end of next week. So yeah, just trying to enjoy a little bit of downtime before it gets going again.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, you talk about August 1st. I think it's important for parents and players to understand, like, August 1st and that week, like, how many players is Boston College realistically, like, targeting? Because I think some people think they're just calling everybody, but in reality, like, how many calls are you making?
Yeah, so uh, with our whole staff being able to make calls, we ended up calling about 70 kids
Yep.
within and it wasn't all on August 1st. It was within that first week.
Mhm.
The kids that we were really prioritizing in terms of positionally or pitching certainly either came from myself or Todd. But yeah, we have other kids that we were calling that we have an interest in as well. So yeah, we're not calling everybody, but we called a pretty good amount of kids too.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like obviously there's just so much blown out on social media about that August 1st date, and the panic sets in, and um but I didn't expect it, but heard you mention obviously tying up loose ends with 2026s. So do you envision that that's going to kind of be your normal timeline, finishing out the 27s at around this time next year as well?
Yeah, yeah, it'll be around this time next year, maybe even like a little bit later.
Yeah.
For us, we're a little bit more patient on the front end in terms of of we want to make sure we get plenty of evals on the kids. We want to do our homework on the kids. We want to talk to coaches. We want to talk to, if they play another sport, their other sport coaches. Yeah, man, like it's just us doing our research and doing our due diligence to make sure that the kid's the right fit for us. Just because, Murph, as coaching here, this place is a little bit different. It could be a little bit more unique than another school in the ACC. And again, we just want to make sure we have the right kid that's coming in here that's going to help us out.
So, Ryan, obviously you talked about that internship you had and kind of scouting with the Pirates that you were implementing a lot of the new kind of analytics, technology, stuff like that. When you're recruiting high school guys, what are certain metrics, certain things you're looking for that kind of separate a guy like, oh, that's a guy we want to target?
Sure. Yeah, and maybe I'm coming from a little bit more of the old school mentality in
Sure.
terms of recruiting, just because I've done it. I've gone out recruiting so long without all the data and out all the
Yeah.
metrics. So for me, it's still comes down to, can the kid just compete? Like,
Yep.
is the kid talented enough? Can he compete? Can I see that? Can I project that kid to continue to get better in his time here? And then with the data, obviously we can kind of draw some conclusions from what our eyes are telling us. But yeah, like for me, I come from more the old school. I like to go out and see the kid play as much as possible. I want to see what type of teammate he is. I want to see how he reacts to failure. So a lot of the other intangibles besides just the data, but also now we compare that with the data, which is extremely helpful too.
Yeah. So I know you have one player development guy currently on staff, is that right?
Yeah, we do. We have one player development guy. Pitcher, he's a pitching development guy.
Okay. So is he kind of working does he handle more of the technology? Like how do you guys work hand in hand and what would you say his main roles are?
Yeah, so his main role on our staff right now is he is in charge of all TrackMan data. He helps set up our TrackMan, our mobile unit. He's the one who will go down. He'll break down all the data. He'll put it in a more of a readable fashion for me. He'll
Yeah.
explain. I have a pretty good idea with the data. However, he's on another level with it,
Yeah.
and he's able to dumb it down a little bit for me as well.
Yeah.
But also too, he's really good at looking at the data and implementing a plan, and maybe like, hey, we want to make this kid's slider better. Hey, this is why this kid's fastball is good,
Yeah.
right? This is why he gets so much swing and miss. So like he's able to break that down and give it to myself and our guys in a real readable, easy, elementary fashion.
Yeah. Is he ever coming to you in a situation like, "Hey, we are using this guy totally wrong with his arsenal and what his stuff is showing us?" Is it ever conversations to that extreme?
Yeah, we've had conversations about something similar to that.
Yeah.
He could come up to us and just be like, "Hey, like I think we need to throw this kid's slider more. Hey, I think, hey, this kid's fastball is not getting hit, like especially at the top of the zone. Like I think we need to attack the top of the zone more." So yeah, honestly, like for me, I'll be the first to tell you I don't know it all about pitching. And
Mhm.
if there's a pitching coach out there that's saying that, they're lying to you. But also too, like for me, like I'm an open book. Like he's young. He's still learning, but he's also super intelligent and has been around and understands like, the data and understands more so what younger kids are looking for now.
Ryan, is there do you ever get the sense 'cause it's kind of refreshing you talk about the old school, because my opinion is that I think sometimes and a lot of at a lot of schools and a lot of professional organizations, like, the kind of the data-driven technology approach has gone too far.
Mhm.
And so how do you walk that line where obviously it's really important to have all the data you can, use the analytics, but how do you draw the line from, all right, well, this guy's having a lot of success. Like we don't want to mess with him in hopes that he gets 2% better. Like what's that
Mhm.
line for you? And is there a time where you think analytics goes a little too far?
For sure. Yeah. And I think it's a tricky line to toe as well, because I think it's all just dependent on the guys.
Yep.
I think it's first and foremost knowing your staff, knowing their personalities, understanding who are the guys that can handle the data and who are the guys that maybe can't handle the data, or the guys that don't really care about it either. So I think it's more so just knowing your personnel in terms of who can handle and who can't.
Yeah. Have you found it's becoming more challenging when a freshman gets there to teach them about the compete and being quick to the plate and all the things that are important with on the pitching side that maybe these kids are all just brought up on a TrackMan since 7th grade now? Are you finding that's becoming a challenge from day one?
It is becoming more challenging, and like you said, a lot of these kids have just been training in facilities, and all they're trying to do is throw as hard as they can, and make their off speed as good as they can, and there's a component of that that is really good, and it's great, and we're seeing guys come in with really good stuff. We're seeing guys come in that throw extremely hard. However, too, there is a little bit of a challenge in terms of, okay, hey, now we need to hone in that stuff and we need to get it in the strike zone. We need to be able to compete. And you need to be able to execute that stuff when we're playing a Saturday in an ACC series and your backs are up against the wall. So yeah, of course, like that's been a little bit of a challenge. But also too, I think it's been a good thing just because guys are aware, guys have a really good awareness of what they're good at when they get here.
Ryan, what are the things that, especially from the pitching perspective, that you see freshmen struggling with the most? I mean, obviously there's, the academics at BC, kind of campus life in general, but not only those things, but when they get to, the first week of fall practice or individuals, what are the things you're seeing generally speaking of the freshmen that you're like, man, these guys are behind in this area?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the weight room.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of good programs out there in which they prioritize the weight room. However, I just think that's the lowest hanging fruit for our guys coming in is they need to have a good base of strength underneath them, and they need to realize that in order for us to have success at the level in which we want to have success at, like the weight room is is just as important as what we're doing on the field in terms of throwing and all of it. I always bring it up to our guys, like if you can lift a lot of weight and you can throw the ball really far, more times than not, you're going to throw really hard and you're going to have good stuff.
Yep.
So if you can just check those two boxes, yeah, of course, there's a lot more that go into it in terms of development and with movement and other little nuances. But like if you could just check those two boxes, yeah, like you're gonna be pretty damn good. The other thing that I always see with our freshmen coming in is them just adjusting to the speed of the game. The
Yeah.
the game the game, as you guys know at this level, is just so much faster. And and one of my favorite times of the year is our first inter squad when we get Josiah Ragsdale, who was a seventh rounder this past year out of here. Absolutely burns, is on first base, and we have a freshman on the mound that's a 1-7 to the plate, and Josiah's standing on second base.
Yeah.
And then it's, hey, he's standing on second base. We're a 1-7 to the plate again, and he's standing on third base. So just understanding, like, hey, okay, we have to understand we have to be quick to the plate, but also too, like guys are going to exploit you, and it's going
100%.
to happen, and it's going to happen at an extremely fast clip.
Ryan, yeah, I think that's like the best thing that I think that's exactly right. It's just at that level of college baseball, like your weaknesses are going to be heavily exploited. And I don't know, you may agree with this, but I feel like now, I think, back when I was playing in 2011 to 2013, that was kind of the new BB core bats came in, ball went
Mhm.
nowhere. It was like pitching was kind of, I mean, kind of, I don't want to say easy, but like you throw a fastball over the plate to most hitters, like they're not going
Yep.
to hit it out of the park. Now pitching's on extreme difficulty mode. And my kind of sense is that pitchers now have the biggest jump over hitters to college baseball because that strike zone goes from, 5 inches off the plate to strike in high school, and guys will chase anything. So
Yep.
now you're facing elite hitters and the strike zone's a tin can. Like, is that in your sense? I mean, also the balls are just juiced. I mean, obviously.
Yep.
So, like, couple all those things, like, is it really fun being a pitching coach in the ACC now?
I mean, our place is a graveyard. So, and coming from where I came from at the Air Force Academy, where it was
Oh, man, yeah.
7,300 feet above sea level, like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, this is great.
Yeah.
No, but going back to what you were saying too, the other thing is yeah, these guys are coming in throwing extremely hard. They have really good stuff, but also too with that, if you're throwing a 92 mile an hour fastball to a high school hitter, like more times than not,
Yeah,
you could just
buy
pitch
'em.
with your damn fastball,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right?
that's
You
right.
know, so it's and once you get to this level, 92 gets turned around pretty damn easily too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so just being able to, pitch, being able to execute your stuff. Hey, being able to land a breaking ball in a fastball count, like just doing those simple nuances of pitching. Like, yeah, like it can be a struggle at times, but it's all part of the development process. It's all fun with it.
Yeah. Can you walk us through a little bit how the day in the life will look for a freshman when they get there between weight room, academics, study hall? I don't think kids realize how much it goes into it when you're talking about playing in the ACC, but also managing the degree of a school like BC.
For sure. And this is one thing I always tell our recruits coming in is if you want to go somewhere where you could get a world-class, world-renowned degree, and then you get a chance to strap it on in the ACC, this is the place, right? Because you're getting a top 15 degree in the entire world. And then you get to play in the best conference in college baseball, and that's my biased opinion right there. Uh, but
I
no,
agree. Hey,
a day
hey,
in
I
the
agree.
life.
I agree.
Yeah, yeah, you guys can agree. You guys have ACC ties here. No, but a day in the life of our kids. In the fall, we'll have class. They'll be in class from 8 to 12 every day. Uh, we require them to go to breakfast before their 8 a.m. class. And then once their classes are done, they go to lunch. They'll come down here right around 1, 2 o'clock. They'll start all their pre-work with our athletic trainer. We actually just got a new weight room here in the facility, which has been a game changer for us. So for our pitchers, we basically start on the field at 3 o'clock with dynamic, fans, shoulder tubes, plyos, throwing, while the position players are up here getting their lift in. So we have the whole field basically for hour 15, hour and a half just to ourselves, to where we can throw pens on the game out if we need be. We could do PFPs on the field without any of the position players. And then once the position players are done with their lift, they'll come down around 4:15. They'll get their arms up. We'll end up blending for some sort of team D segment. Once that team D segment's over, pitchers will then come do their recovery work in the bullpen and then come up and get their lift in. So, they're down here from 3 to 6, 6:30 every day between lifting and what they're doing from a development standpoint on the field. And then they'll go right to dinner afterwards, and then they'll have the night to themselves to study and do whatever they need to do to prepare for the next day. But yeah, that's basically what a day in the life looks like right now for our guys, once our fall season starts.
Yeah, I think it's most guys just don't understand, and you made a kind of a great description of what it's like. I mean, you're in the fall as a freshman, you got 8 a.m. classes, so you generally have like a 6 o'clock lift, maybe even earlier, and then you try to get some food in after that, and you're at classes until maybe 11 or 12, and lunch, then go to the field, and you're at the field until 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yep.
And then you got maybe a study hall for a class, dinner. Like, it's not like you're just walking around campus,
Mhm.
have a whole lot of time to yourself.
No. Well, in our previous schedule, when we first got here, before we had the weight room at Frady's, our guys were lifting at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it'd be a 7:30 to 8:30 lift. A lot of times they wouldn't even get a chance to go shower or do anything just because the weight room was a mile away. And then they're running to class. Where now with the weight room here, everything is housed at Frady's from a baseball perspective. So it really compounds their day, but also too, all the baseball activities happen in one spot.
And don't be late to class, or class check's gonna get you, and, hey,
No, don't be late to
you're gonna be
class.
running.
So, and then the other thing too is, we prioritize sleep, and we prioritize recovery here. So like for us to tell our kids like, hey, we want you to be in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock every night so you can get a full night's rest for your 7:30 lift. Like that's extremely difficult. And like I'm not naive to the fact that our guys were actually doing that. Right. So it at least gives us a little bit more time for our guys to, go to bed a little bit later after doing their stuff, after doing their homework,
Yeah.
so they could get a full night's sleep and they're ready to prepare for their next day.
Yeah. And I'm a little biased on the on the Pete Frady Center that you guys got over there. I think it's one of the best facilities, obviously, in the country. But just talk about everything everything that you guys have in the facility and, yeah, just between the cages, the weight room, just kinda, give us a rundown.
Yeah, it's a world-class facility. And honestly, we have the nicest indoor facility, in the Pete Frady Center, in my opinion, in the ACC. And part of it is because we need it. Obviously, being the furthest north school in the ACC, we do get that white stuff here called snow, right? It does get a little
Kyle
it
does not know what
I
that
get
is.
that like
it
once every 4
Nope.
years.
it gets a little cold up here, but believe it or not, like if it's 30 degrees and there's no snow on the field in the wintertime, like we're going to be out on the field. However, the Pete Frady Center, like I said, it's world class. We have our own weight room in here that has 8 racks. We have a pit shark machine, full rack of dumbbells. I mean, it's a big league. It's a big league weight room that we have here. With that, we have 6 cages in which we can actually move the cages up and down. We have mounds in there, so if we need to go live or we need to throw bullpens in here, we can do that. Uh, I talked a little bit about it earlier. We do have a mobile TrackMan that we utilize in the bullpens that we could bring in here as well. From an offensive standpoint, we have a hit tracks in here that our guys use, and actually use it correctly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not just used for home run derby. It's
Yeah.
actually, hey, we're tracking exit
Yeah.
velas, launch angles, zone discipline, like
Yep.
all the things that it should be used for, more so than just home run derby.
You mean they're not
We
swinging and just, like, looking back at it?
Immediately looking
I mean, we still have some guys do that. My 6-year-old was doing that yesterday on it, actually.
Yeah, he's
So,
allowed.
uh, but yeah, no, we have 6 cages in which we're able to open it up however we want. So if we wanted one big square, we can do so, or we can have 6 cages all down. Um, so that's a really nice amenity that we have. Downstairs, we have our own athletic training room with hot tub, cold tub, um, training tables. We have our STEM machines. It's a really nice facility as well down there. And then obviously our clubhouse, which if you guys get a chance to see that, it's a big league clubhouse. It's legit. So we're super fortunate, super blessed for what we have here. And I know Murph's been in here. Murph knows the ins and outs of the building. It's legit.
Ryan, you talked about what the offense can do in there, and I think this is even though you're the pitching coach, obviously you're involved in recruiting and you're going and watching hitters too. It's a very unique offense at Boston College. And I remember when Todd took the job, I thought, his offense is a kind of offense, it may take a few years to get the right group of guys in that can really run it. Like, what does a hitter, an offensive player have to look like to get recruited to Boston College? And explain a little bit about the offense.
For sure. So our offense is extremely unique in terms of compared to what the rest of the ACC is trying to do. We are we are trying to run. We are trying to create havoc on the base paths. We play a lot of small ball. Yeah, we have some guys in the middle of the lineup that can drive in guys that can hit doubles and can hit home runs. But for us, in terms of the way in which we want to run our system is we have to have guys that can first and foremost can run and are super athletic. You know, whenever I bring up a player to Todd on the positional side, the first question he always asks is, "How do they run?"
Yeah.
And what position do they play? For us, we try to recruit basically up the middle. In terms of, yeah, we want a catcher that can really do it back there, can really receive. We want to bring in a bunch of shortstops because we feel like those are the most athletic guys on the field, and then
Yeah.
certainly center fielders.
Yeah.
So obviously, our system's a little bit unique in terms of, yeah, we want some physicality, we want some guys that can bang, but we really want some athletic guys that can run.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to argue when the guy's won, you feel like 40 games a year for the last 5, 6, 7 years at Wofford, prior. So it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
he knows the system, he knows what he wants, and he knows what he's done to win. Um,
Absolutely. Well, and one cool thing is, obviously this is us going into year 3. We're starting to get some guys in here that can really burn.
Yeah.
But last year was kind of the turning point where it was like, okay, hey, we don't have a full 9 guys that can run in the lineup,
yeah,
but it's cool to see how other schools are trying to adapt to our system in terms of like on the mound, guys trying to be 1-2s to the plate and trying to execute pickoffs. And, you could tell that there's teams that can't necessarily do that as well as others.
Yep.
and it can become a track meet out there.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's almost when it's like I remember I was doing the broadcast against Georgia when you guys were down at Georgia Tech 2 years ago, and
Hey,
you
great
and
series for
Like
us.
2 out of
yeah,
3,
great,
right?
yeah,
No,
no,
they
swept,
Or
swept them.
sweep,
swept
sweep,
them,
yeah.
swept them, and Georgia Tech probably gets a host if they win
Yeah.
1 or 2 games there, but they got swept. And I remember thinking like it's almost like it's like a magic trick. I mean, you can tell the pitchers they haven't seen anything like it before. They're getting rattled on the mound. And so it's almost like when you face Boston College, it almost turns into college football where like the whole week you're game planning. Hey, we got to
Yeah.
work on our pickoffs. We got to work on being
Yep.
quicker to the plate. Whereas every other team you're facing, you're not really doing that in practice, like working on unique things. So it's like that week against Boston College, like, guys, we got to get ready for this. Because you could
For
tell in
sure.
that series against Georgia Tech. I mean, I think even one time with 2 outs, like one of your guys squared around a bunt with runners on first and second, and the guy just like he just he's bunting and then double
Yeah.
steal and
Yep.
look back, and I'm like, okay, like you could tell the kids hadn't seen an offense like this in like decades.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also too that series was nice because we went lead off Jack to start 2 games. So,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, that also helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where, if any, I guess, is the sacrifice for an offensive guy? Like, will you take a stud catcher if he's not running the numbers that from a 60 standpoint, or like a first baseman that really hits, or is it just does he run or does he not?
Yeah. I mean, I if it's a unique situation like a catcher, they have to really, really catch.
Yeah.
You know, like that's one thing in which Todd's really big on is guys have to be able to really catch and throw.
Yeah.
In terms of like a first baseman, like I don't want to say we wouldn't recruit a prototypical big-bodied first baseman. They would have to do something really special. But like that, the one thing that I just keep going back to is like we you know we need to have some standard of athleticism 1 through 9 in our lineup.
Ryan, when you're out on the trail, what are kind of the red flag behaviors, attitude things that you see on the field where you're watching a guy that maybe you guys have identified as like, could be a potential guy for you, and then you see him do this or that, and you're like, man, like I'm out now. What are those things for you?
Well, the first one is it might not be on the field, but it's the
Yeah.
parents.
Okay.
Like
Wow.
that's
Yep.
that can be a big one for us in terms of, seeing how the parents are acting
Mhm.
in the stands, seeing if those are people that we want to bring into our
Yep.
program. In terms of the kids on the field, just, red flags for us is, first just seeing how they're interacting with their teammates and their coaches during when they're failing.
Yep.
Is, seeing how their body language is when they endure that failure. Yeah, like there's a lot of different things in terms of red flags but I would say like the parents are the big one for me. Seeing how their parents are acting, especially at some of these bigger tournaments on the circuit, and then also too just seeing how the kids are reacting to failure with their teammates and their coaches.
What are those behaviors from parents that you see and you're like, oh no? Because I think you bring up a great point because the guys we work with, we talk about this. We're like,
Yeah.
guys, like it's just as important for you as parents to not be like the one yelling and being the one making a scene because coaches are watching you guys. And I think no one hears that. So what are those behaviors, Ryan, that you see out of parents sometimes where you're like, oh, I don't want anything to do with those guys?
Yeah, questioning what the coaches are doing on the field, questioning what the players are doing, questioning, maybe, hey, why is this kid playing here? Why is this kid hitting here? Those are certainly behaviors. And then also too, you could just like sometimes like we've all been to plenty of games now, but you can just feel like some nervous tension, and you could just feel like what's going
Yeah.
on around you.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
you just have this weird feeling that like maybe something's off.
Like you're out
So
there with the radar gun and you feel like you feel like a presence creep up right behind you and you're just like,
yeah, and they're trying to poke their head around the shoulder, looking at the radar gun, or
yeah.
yeah, no, those are all
Yeah, I
which,
think
which yeah,
it's a lesson that, like, coaches shouldn't be able to pick out who the parents of the kid are. Like, that's how you know that, like, they're gonna be easygoing, they're not gonna be an issue. Like, if they're just there enjoying the game and watching it and having fun, like, that's signs that they're going to be a good fit in the program too.
Yeah, and
For sure.
I think it's one thing if, like, mom's rooting for their son,
Yeah,
Mhm.
like, my mom would do that, like, she was
yeah,
pretty loud,
of
but
course.
there's a difference between doing that and, you can identify, "Okay, that's probably his mom," and then, like, what you said, Ryan, like, all those things that you brought up, so
Yeah. You mentioned having obviously getting some speed in there and finally like getting the offense and the types of guys you want in the system. So talking about transfers, obviously academically it's not going to be a walk in the park for anybody to transfer in there. And I know you've had like Columbia, Holy Cross, Johns Hopkins. So just talk about how that transfer process works and I guess academically is it you're obviously drawn to the schools that have a better degree, I would imagine.
For sure. Yeah, and for us, um, in order for us to have success in this league, we have to do it with high school kids.
Mhm.
And we wanna just fill in the gaps with the transfers. The one way in which we've had success with transfers is a lot of grad guys. However, that is starting to fizzle out now, obviously, with, the D3 guys and the COVID years all now kinda coming to a conclusion. Um, yeah, we wanna target kids maybe from, like, higher academic institutions, because obviously, like, that's something that if they're at a school like that, that they prioritize, right? Um, the other thing too, from a transfer standpoint, is I don't know if we're necessarily going to get the high profile kids that some of the other schools in our league are getting. So us being able to find the diamonds in a rough that fit what we're trying to do here at BC, is has been something that we've had success with as well.
yeah, I think, what's interesting is at Boston College, it's similar to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's high academic. That's
Yep.
I went there, so but it's almost like Boston College is kind of a level above that academically. And so, what are those general academic requirements for a scholarship athlete at Boston College, or preferred walk on type to
Mhm.
get in?
Yeah, typically we're looking for above a 3.5. We are test optional right now.
Okay.
However, whenever I'm talking to a recruit, I always urge them just to at least take an SAT or an ACT and see where they're at. It helps us, especially if our kids are trying to get into our business school, just because it is so competitive to get in. That
Yep.
say they score well on their SAT and ACT and they have a good transcript, it's going to bolster their resume to get into that school. Um, but yeah, typically like a 3.5, 3.6 is kind of what I look at. We can go a little bit below that. However, we just can't have a whole class of kids that are,
Yeah.
a 3.0 to a
Okay.
3.5. Um, and most of the kids in which we recruit and most of the kids in which we come across are above that 3.5 threshold. But that's usually about where we're at.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously talking about having to have success with high school kids, how has the portal affected how you are personally and I guess the staff? Like how has it changed how you are evaluating those high school kids? Is it more of like, hey, this kid better be ready as a freshman to get time for us, or is it more um yeah, I guess yeah, how are you evaluating those guys?
Yeah, it really hasn't changed extremely much in
Okay.
terms of how we're evaluating high school kids versus how we're evaluating the transfer kids. The one nice thing that when we took over here is um, a lot of times when you come into a situation where there's a new coaching staff, everybody goes in the portal.
Yeah.
Where for us, when we got here as a new staff, only 2 kids went in the portal and left. And that's a testament to the school,
Yep.
the baseball program, and at the end of the day, the guys in the clubhouse. So we didn't lose very many guys, and we had a lot of returning veterans back. So for us, we didn't necessarily really have to go dive into the portal and get a lot of kids that needed to be impact kids. We were still able to kind of go through our routine and our process in terms of trying to identify the right high school kids and doing it with kids that are going to be in our program for 3, 4, 5 years potentially.
Yeah, it's funny because it's almost like, when you run an offense as unique as Todd's, it's almost like there's a positive that you're not losing a lot of guys, but then you're like, do the guys that are staying fit the mold that we kind of want to run out there every day. And you
Mhm.
could tell in that first year when you guys came down and swept Georgia Tech, you could tell like you had a few guys that could really run that type of offense, but then there were some guys in the middle where you're like, that's not really a guy
For
who
sure.
you see in a Todd Interdonato offense.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, no, it's and like we were talking a little bit about earlier, is that's just gonna take time. Like, it's
Yep.
just gonna take time to get to get the personnel in there, and I think we're getting really close right now.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think just a few more things. So, one for us, just kind of talk about the biggest draws to BC since you've been there um and just what you've seen like kids and families are drawn to, number 1, and then number 2, challenges. I know every school's got them. Not many people go out and talk about them, but yeah, what are some of the biggest challenges you feel like you faced so far?
Yeah, first and foremost, the biggest draw, is the education,
Yep.
and when Todd asked me if I would be interested in this job coming from the Air Force Academy, I wasn't looking to leave the Air Force Academy by any
Yeah.
means. You know, that was home for me, and we had a good thing going there. But the one thing I just kept reverting back to for me as a coach personally, and what I value is I value the college experience, the degree in which you're going to get, and then also too, on top of that, getting a chance to play in the ACC and strapping on against the best of the best week in and week out.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the biggest draw here is the quality of the degree, the caliber of the degree, and then also too getting a chance to do it in the ACC. The other awesome thing and the cool draw that like I kind of had an idea about when I got here, but like we're in one of the coolest cities in the world.
Yeah.
You know, we're
Yeah.
we're located about 2 miles away from Fenway. So our guys go down and hang out in Fenway and go to Red Sox games all the time. Like, you know, if they have a date or whatever, they take their dates down to the
Yeah.
north end. Like
Yep.
it's an unbelievable city
Yeah.
to live in,
No doubt.
especially for a young college kid. Um, in terms of challenges, I would say being the furthest north school in the ACC, the weather could be tricky, especially in March and April, when we're trying to play home games here. It can be cold. It could make conditions tough. But again, we have the facilities in which we can combat that as well with what we have here at Frady's. We actually put a bubble over our football stadium once football's over, so we have a place in which we can go in and we can long toss and we can inter squad inside if need be. And then also too, we have a brand new indoor football facility. We can't go live in there, but it's another place for us if we needed to go take ground balls somewhere, we
Yep.
needed a place to go throw long, we could do so in there as well. You know, so yeah, I would say the biggest challenge is obviously being in the Northeast where it snows and can be cold in the wintertime and certainly in the early spring. But also too, we have the facilities to combat that to where we can still develop and we can still get better on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. Ryan, thanks for doing this, man. Really appreciate it. Really great insights into not just the acad or the school at BC, but just how you guys recruit and how unique the offense is. So hopefully we can have you on again soon.
Absolutely. No, I'd love to do it again. And thanks for having me, guys.